My name is Hannah Parker. I'm 18 years old, and I live in a small suburb just outside of Nashville, Tennessee. By day, I'm just another high school senior in jeans and sneakers, juggling homework and part-time shifts at the grocery store. But inside, I'm resilient, a girl who refuses to crumble, no matter how hard life tries to snap me in half. My stepmother lit my college acceptance letter on fire right in front of me, laughing as the flames ate my future. She thought that fire would destroy me, but she never imagined hearing my name announced as valedictorian, echoing across the auditorium she sat in. Before I tell you how I got from ashes to that stage, let me ask, have you ever had someone try to crush your dreams out of jealousy or spite? If you're watching, please like and subscribe. It helps more than you know. And tell me in the comments, who underestimated you, and how did you prove them wrong? The story doesn't start with the flames, it starts years before, in a quiet 2-story house where the shadows stretched long. My mom died when I was 12. Cancer. Quick. Merciless. Dad remarried within 2 years, and that's when Melissa entered our lives. My stepmother. Blonde hair that never seemed out of place, manicured nails that clicked on countertops, a smile that never quite reached her eyes. At first, she played nicely. Cookies after school, questions about homework, soft compliments in front of Dad. But when he wasn't around, the sweetness soured. She called me charity case, reminded me the house wasn't mine, and only tolerated me because of him. I was too young to fight back. Too trusting. I thought if I worked hard enough, she'd respect me. If I got good grades, helped with chores, stayed out of the way, maybe she'd finally smile for real. She never did. By junior year, Melissa's disdain had sharpened into competition. Whenever Dad praised me, her lips tightened. If a teacher sent home a glowing report, she found ways to belittle it. Straight A's? She'd say, smirking. Well, maybe if you had a social life, you'd have a B or two. Or scholarships? Honey, schools don't hand out money for free. Don't get your hopes up. Every jab chipped away at me. But instead of breaking, I doubled down. I studied harder. Worked later. Saved every dollar from bagging groceries, every babysitting gig, every tutoring session. I told myself, college will be my escape. Just hold on until then. Senior spring, I rushed home one afternoon to find a thick envelope waiting on the kitchen counter. My hands shook as I tore it open. Congratulations, Hannah Parker. The words blurred as tears welled in my eyes. I'd been accepted into Vanderbilt University, with a scholarship. My dream school. The door out of Melissa's cage. I clutched the letter to my chest, my heart pounding with relief and joy. I wanted to scream, to dance, to run and tell Dad before he came home from work. But then Melissa walked in. She saw the letter. Saw my tears. Saw my joy, her smile curled. Not kind, but cruel. "What's this?" she asked, snatching it from my hands. "My acceptance," I whispered, still dazed. "Vanderbilt." I got in. Her eyes scanned the page. Then she laughed. Not softly, harsh, sharp, mean. "Vanderbilt? With a scholarship?" "Oh, honey," she shook her head. "You think you're better than me, don't you?" I froze. "No, this is my dream." But before I could finish, she walked to the stove, turned the burner on, and held the letter over the flame. "No." I screamed, lunging forward, but it was too late. The paper caught, flames licking, curling, turning the proof of my future into blackened ash. Melissa dropped it into the sink, smirking as it burned out. "Dreams," she said coldly, "are fragile. Just like you." I stood there shaking, tears streaming, staring at the ashes. "That was my future," I whispered. "No, sweetie," she said, voice dripping with poison. "That was my house, my rules. And as long as you live here, you'll remember who holds the power." She turned and walked away, heels clicking like a gavel. I sank to the floor, clutching the sink's edge, sobs racking my chest. For the first time, I truly believed she might win. That maybe I'd never escape. But deep inside, beneath the grief, something else sparked, a tiny ember. That night, I lay awake staring at the ceiling, the smell of burnt paper still clinging to the air, Melissa thought she had destroyed me. She thought a fire could erase years of work, erase my worth. But she didn't know one thing. The college already knew my name. The acceptance letter was just a formality, and one day, she'd hear that name announced in a place she could never silence it, echoing across a stage, in front of everyone she wanted to impress. People imagine stepfamilies like the movies, awkward beginnings that soften into love, laughter at dinner tables, maybe a montage of bonding moments. My reality? The opposite. Dad always tried to make us look like a picture-perfect family. Every holiday, he insisted on photos by the fireplace. Melissa standing tall in the center. Dad was beside her, smiling proudly. My stepsister Chloe, with her arm looped through Melissa's, is wearing a matching dress. And I, always slightly off to the side, clutching my hands together, like a guest who wandered into the frame. At Thanksgiving, Melissa served turkey on her grandmother's china and bragged about Chloe's choir solos. At Christmas, she passed out perfectly wrapped gifts, each with expensive bows. For Chloe, a new iPad. For Dad, leather gloves. For herself, spa vouchers. And for me, socks, always socks. Practical, she'd say with a smirk. You're such a practical girl, Hannah. Dad never noticed. Or maybe he pretended not to. He'd raise his glass and toast to family, and I'd force a smile, chewing on the silence in my throat. Chloe was Melissa's daughter from her first marriage. She was only a year younger than me, but somehow she lived in a different world. She had the biggest bedroom, the nicest clothes, and the latest phone. Melissa doted on her like she hung the moon, and Chloe played along perfectly. She was sweet in front of adults, smiling, polite, even giving me hugs when Dad was around. But behind closed doors, she was Melissa's echo. You know she doesn't like you, right? Chloe whispered once, smirking as we cleaned up dishes. She told me she wishes Dad had sent you to boarding school. Said you're embarrassing. Her words stung, but I stayed quiet. If I pushed back, Melissa would hear about it within minutes. And then I'd be punished, not with grounding, but with silence, exclusion, the kind of punishment that made you feel invisible. I used to wonder why Dad didn't see it. Or maybe he did. Maybe he chose comfort over truth. He loved Melissa. That much was clear. She hosted dinner parties for his colleagues, kept the house spotless, and dressed him in sharp suits before work events. She made him look good, and in return he overlooked everything else. When I tried to speak up once, I told him Melissa treated me differently. He frowned and said, Hannah, she's trying. Blended families are hard. Don't be so sensitive. That word branded me. Every time Melissa belittled me, every time Chloe smirked, I reminded myself not to be sensitive, to keep it in, to endure. If home was a battlefield of smiles and silence, school was my sanctuary. I threw myself into classes. Honors English, AP Biology, Calculus. Teachers loved me because I worked hard, never complained, and always handed in assignments on time. Mrs. Reynolds, my English teacher, once pulled me aside. Hannah, you have a gift. Your writing, it's honest, raw. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise. Her words lit something inside me. A flicker of belief that maybe I wasn't invisible after all. I joined clubs too. Student council, debate team, tutoring program. Not because I had time, but because each activity was a way to build a resume strong enough to escape. Vanderbilt wasn't just a school to me. It was freedom. But Melissa hated my ambition. If I stayed late for a study group, she accused me of shirking chores. If I mentioned college, she'd sigh dramatically. Honey, let's be realistic. Not everyone's cut out for big universities. A community college would suit you better. Save everyone some disappointment. She said it with a sweet smile, like she was doing me a favor. But at night, alone in my room, I clenched my fists and whispered to myself, I will get out. I will. One memory still stings. It was Dad's 50th birthday. Melissa planned a huge dinner with family and neighbors. She dressed Chloe in a glittering gold dress. I wore my only decent black one. During the toast, Melissa raised her glass and said, To my wonderful husband, who gave me the gift of a daughter like Chloe. The room clapped, and laughter filled the air. No one noticed the way my fork froze, the way my chest tightened. I wasn't even mentioned. Not once. Later in the kitchen, I whispered, "You forgot me." Melissa smirked, leaning close. "I didn't forget, sweetie. You just don't belong." I started noticing more cracks in her mask. The way her smile stiffened whenever I got praised at school. The way she locked her office drawer when I walked by. The hushed phone calls she ended abruptly when I entered the room. Something was brewing. I didn't know it then, but Melissa wasn't just trying to keep me small. She was planning to make sure I never got out. One night, I came home late from tutoring a sophomore in math. As I pushed the front door open quietly, I heard voices drifting from the living room. Melissa's low, sharp tone. "She won't be going anywhere. Not if I have anything to say about it." My breath caught in my throat. I pressed my back against the wall, heart hammering. Realizing Melissa wasn't just cruel, she had a plan, and I was her target. The night I overheard Melissa's voice, "She won't be going anywhere," I barely slept. Her words looped through my mind like a curse. I knew she didn't like me. I knew she wanted me small. But I hadn't realized she was actively plotting against me. The next morning, Melissa acted like nothing had happened. Pancakes for Chloe, coffee for Dad, a frosty glance for me. "Hannah," she said, dropping a list on the counter, "I need you to vacuum, do the laundry, and scrub the bathrooms before you go to work today." I frowned. "I have a chemistry exam tomorrow. Can I?" She cut me off with a sharp laugh. "Oh, sweetheart, studying won't help if you don't have the brains for it. Better stick to cleaning. At least you'll be good at something." My hands clenched, but I bit my tongue. Dad walked in a minute later, kissed her cheek, and left with his travel mug, completely oblivious. At school, Chloe made sure Melissa's poison followed me. "Did you hear?" She whispered to her friends in the cafeteria, loud enough for me to catch. "Hannah thinks she's going to Vanderbilt, as if. She'll be folding clothes at Walmart by next year," her friends giggled. One of them turned to me and said, "Don't worry, Hannah. Some of us are meant to shine. Some are meant to. Support." I forced myself to walk away, heat rushing to my face. Later that day, my best friend Kayla pulled me aside. She was the only one I confided in, the only one who saw through my quiet mask. She whispered, "You've got to be careful. I heard Chloe talking in the locker room. She said Melissa has plans to handle your applications." I blinked. "Handle? What does that even mean?" Kayla's face was serious. "It means don't leave anything where she can find it. Don't trust her with mail. Don't trust her with anything." Her warning lodged deep in my chest. That night, while Melissa and Dad were at dinner with friends and Chloe was out, I crept into Melissa's office. The drawer I'd noticed before, the one she always locked, was still sealed shut. I tried the handle, tugging gently. No luck. I crouched, heart racing, whispering to myself, "What are you hiding, Melissa?" I almost jumped when headlights flashed through the window. Their car. I bolted to my room, heart hammering. I didn't know it then, but behind that locked drawer lay more than just bills or receipts. It held the first pieces of evidence that Melissa was preparing to sabotage me completely. The next week, I tried talking to Dad again. "Dad," I said carefully as we washed dishes, "do you think Melissa resents me?" He frowned, drying a plate. "Resents you?" "No, sweetheart. She's just tough. She wants you to be realistic. She's trying to prepare you for life." "By calling me useless?" I asked, my voice trembling. Dad's eyes darkened. "Don't exaggerate. She's under stress. Don't make things harder." It was like banging my head against a brick wall. Dad wasn't just blind. He was willfully blind. One evening, I came home from my shift at the grocery store to find Chloe lounging on the couch with her friends. My backpack, unzipped, papers spilling, was at her feet. "Chloe!" I shouted, rushing forward. "What are you doing with my bag?" She smirked. "Relax. We were just looking at your essay drafts." "Cute, really. You write like you think you're special." "Give it back." My voice shook with fury. Her friend laughed. "Wow, Hannah, you get so sensitive. No wonder Melissa says you'll never make it in the real world. I snatched my bag back, clutching it to my chest. My eyes burned with tears, but I forced my voice steady. Touch my stuff again and you'll regret it. Chloe smirked, raising her brows. Oh, scary. What are you gonna do, valedictorian? Write me an essay about it? Her friends cackled. I ran upstairs, slamming my door, shaking so hard I could barely breathe. A few days later, it happened. I checked the mailbox before Melissa could. There was a letter from another university I'd applied to. Excitement fluttered in my chest. I tucked it carefully into my folder in my room, planning to open it later. But when I went back that evening, the folder was gone. Panic surged through me. I tore my room apart. Desk, drawers, closet. Nothing. The next morning, I spotted Melissa tossing ashes from the fireplace into the trash. Her eyes met mine, and for the briefest second, she smiled. My throat went dry. That night, lying awake, the truth sank in like a knife. Melissa wasn't just cruel. She wasn't just dismissive. She was actively destroying my future, piece by piece, letter by letter, and if I didn't find a way to stop her, I'd lose everything I had worked for. I thought Melissa's cruelty had limits. That she would sneer, belittle, maybe even hide my letters. But she wouldn't cross a line so final, so brutal, that it felt like burning my future in front of me. I was wrong. It was a Wednesday afternoon when it happened. I came home from school, backpack heavy with textbooks, brain still buzzing from calculus when I saw it. A thick, official-looking envelope sat on the kitchen counter. The return address made my breath catch. Vanderbilt University Admissions Office. My hands shook as I reached for it. This was it. The moment I'd been working toward since freshman year. But before I could even touch the letter, Melissa's manicured hand swooped in, snatching it up. Well, well, she said, eyes glinting. What's this? Vanderbilt? Oh, Hannah, you really thought... Her voice dripped with venom. Please, I whispered, throat dry. That's mine. Give it back, she smirked, holding it just out of reach. Do you really think you're Vanderbilt material? She asked, voice mocking. They want leaders, stars, not invisible little girls who ride the bus and stock grocery shelves. Tears pricked my eyes, but I stood my ground. I earned that. I worked for it. Her laugh was sharp. And I worked to keep this family together. And you think you're going to waltz off to college and leave your father behind? Leave me to deal with everything? Not a chance. Before I could process her words, she strode to the stove, tore the envelope open, glanced at the first line, and with deliberate cruelty, lit a match. No. I screamed, lunging forward, but she dropped the letter onto the burner. Flames devoured the page, curling it into blackened ash. Melissa laughed as I cried out, as I tried desperately to snatch the burning paper before it disintegrated. Look at you, she sneered. Pathetic. Crying over paper. You really thought you'd escape me? Think again. The smell of smoke filled the kitchen. My dream. Years of sacrifice, nights of studying. Every ounce of hope I'd clung to turned to ash before my eyes. I collapsed against the counter, sobs tearing out of me. Melissa dusted her hands like she'd taken out the trash. There, now we can stop pretending. You're not going anywhere, Hannah. You'll always be exactly what you are. Nothing. And that's when the front door opened. Dad stepped inside, whistling softly, briefcase in hand. His eyes darted from me, red-eyed, shaking, to Melissa, smiling sweetly, and then to the faint smoke curling from the burner. What's going on here? He asked, brow furrowing. Melissa turned instantly, sliding into her act. Oh, honey, she said, putting a hand on his arm. Hannah got carried away. She was waving her mail over the stove for some reason, and it caught fire. Nearly burned down the kitchen? My mouth fell open. What? That's not she did it. She burned my acceptance letter. Dad's face hardened. Hannah. His tone was low, warning. That's a serious accusation. I'm telling the truth. My voice cracked. She destroyed my Vanderbilt letter. Melissa's eyes filled with crocodile tears. I was just trying to stop her from hurting herself, and now she's blaming me. I don't know what to do anymore. Dad sighed heavily, rubbing his temples. Both of you, enough. Melissa, thank you for handling it. Hannah, go to your room. The betrayal hit like a blade. In my room, I curled into a ball on the bed, shaking, clutching my pillow to muffle my sobs. The letter, the proof, the future I had built in silence, was gone. Dad didn't believe me. Melissa had won. For the first time in years, I let the thought creep in. Maybe I really was powerless. Maybe I really was nothing. Later that night, Chloe knocked lightly on my door, then stepped in without waiting for an answer. She smirked, leaning against the doorframe. Rough night? I glared at her, saying nothing. You should have seen Mom's face when she tossed that letter in, she whispered, grin widening. She loved it. And honestly, so did I. Get out, I hissed, voice shaking with fury. She shrugged. Face it, Hannah. You'll never get away. Mom will make sure of it. She turned to leave, then added with a laugh. Oh, and if you tell Dad again, he'll believe her. He always does. When she left, the silence pressed down like a weight. Melissa thought she'd destroyed me with fire. Chloe thought she'd chained me here forever. But as I stared out my window into the night, tears drying on my cheeks, something hardened in my chest. If they wanted me powerless, they were about to see just how much power I had left. Because I wasn't done. Not by a long shot. The smell of smoke clung to the walls for days, even after the letter was long gone. Every time I walked through the kitchen, the phantom scent stabbed me like a reminder. Melissa had burned my future, and Dad had let her. At school, everyone else was buzzing about college acceptances. Friends compared financial aid packages, talked about dorm shopping lists, and snapped photos in their college sweatshirts. Kayla wore a Duke hoodie one morning, and when she asked where my acceptance was, I forced a tight smile. Oh, it hasn't arrived yet. The lie tasted bitter. I couldn't tell her the truth, that Melissa had burned it, and that even if Vanderbilt knew I was in, I had no proof left to fight with. Chloe, of course, spread rumors. Poor Hannah, she'd whisper loudly in the hall. Guess Vanderbilt figured out she wasn't cut out for it after all. Her friends laughed. By the third day, whispers trailed me everywhere I went. Invisible at home, mocked at school, I felt trapped in a cage with no doors. One night at dinner, I tried one more time. Dad, I said softly, pushing peas around my plate. I need you to believe me. That acceptance letter, it was real. Melissa burned it, Melissa gasped, hand over her chest. My goodness, she's still making up stories? Dad's fork clattered against his plate. His voice was cold. Hannah, enough. Melissa has done nothing but try to help you. Stop with the lies, my chest constricted. I'm not lying. His hand slammed down, making the dishes jump. Enough. The table went silent except for Chloe's stifled laugh. I excused myself, ran upstairs, and locked the door. And that's when the last strand of hope inside me snapped. For days, I moved through life in a fog. School, work, chores, sleep, repeat. I stopped answering Kayla's texts. I avoided teachers' eyes. My grades started slipping. Late at night, I sat on my bed staring at the ceiling, whispering to myself, maybe they're right. Maybe I don't belong anywhere else. Maybe I'll always just be nothing. My chest felt heavy, my throat tight. It was the closest I'd ever come to giving up completely. Then one afternoon, while dusting shelves in the living room, I noticed something. Melissa's office door, usually locked, was ajar. I hesitated, pulse quickening. Then I stepped inside. Her desk drawers were closed, but on top of the desk sat a folder. Vanderbilt's crest was embossed in the corner. My heart leapt into my throat. With trembling hands, I opened it. Inside were copies of my transcripts, recommendation letters, and even printouts of my essays, meticulously organized. She hadn't just burned my letter. She'd been collecting my documents, keeping track, preparing to control every step of my college journey. I slammed the folder shut, panic rushing through me. If she caught me in here, she'd twist it against me again. But as I crept back to my room, one thought burned brighter than fear. She thinks she has the power. But power can be stolen back. That night, I stood in front of the bathroom mirror, staring at my reflection. My face looked pale, hollow, tired. My eyes were ringed with shadows, but behind them something flickered, anger, sharp and alive. I whispered to myself, I won't stay broken. Not for her. Not for Chloe. Not even for Dad. The words felt foreign at first, but then they grew stronger. I will not stay broken. Later, I finally picked up one of Kayla's calls. Em, where have you been? I've been so worried, my voice trembled. Kayla, she burned it. My Vanderbilt acceptance. Right in front of me. There was silence on the line, then a sharp inhale. She what? Hannah, that's insane. I don't know what to do, I whispered. No one believes me. Kayla's voice hardened. Then we'll make them believe you. You can't let her win. Her certainty lit something inside me. For the first time in weeks, I felt like maybe I wasn't entirely alone. That night, as I lay in bed, I stared at the ceiling with a different kind of fire in my chest. Melissa thought she had destroyed me. Dad thought I was lying. Chloe thought I was pathetic. But I was done being their servant. Done being invisible. Tomorrow I will start planning, and Melissa would never see it coming. Melissa thought she had snuffed me out. She had burned my acceptance letter, humiliated me in front of Dad, and convinced everyone I was lying. But she didn't realize something important. When you're pushed to the bottom, there's nowhere to go but up, and I was done staying down. The next morning, I pulled Kayla aside in the library. Her eyes widened when she saw me. You look different, fierce. What happened? I leaned across the table, lowering my voice. I'm done letting Melissa control me. But I need help, Kayla nodded instantly. Whatever you need. Proof, I whispered. She burned my Vanderbilt letter. She's probably still hiding things. If I can get evidence, I can stop her. Kayla's eyes narrowed. Then let's find it. That week, I set my first test. Instead of checking the mailbox after school, I asked Kayla to swing by on her way home and pick up any letters addressed to me. She handed them to me at school the next day, and just as I suspected, the mailbox at home stayed empty. Melissa had been intercepting my mail. The day Kayla handed me a thin envelope with another university crest, I nearly cried. I'd been accepted there too, though Vanderbilt was my dream. It was proof that Melissa was actively keeping things from me. But I needed more. I started paying closer attention at home. Every time Melissa left her office, I watched the way she double-checked the locked drawer. Every time she made a phone call, I lingered nearby, listening. Once, I caught her hissing into the receiver. No, she doesn't need to know. I'll handle it. Her father trusts me completely. My stomach churned. Who was she talking to? Admissions? A financial office? The web was bigger than I thought. One afternoon, Kayla whispered, "Why don't we plant something?" A fake letter. See what she does with it. The idea lit up my brain. We spent the evening at Kayla's house designing a convincing scholarship update letter. It wasn't real, but it looked official enough to fool anyone who didn't know better. We sealed it in an envelope with my name, then slid it into the mailbox the next morning. When I got home that afternoon, the mailbox was empty. Melissa was in the kitchen, humming as she stirred a pot of soup. Too calm. Too smug. I slipped upstairs, heart pounding, and texted Kayla. She took the bait. That night, I crept downstairs when the house was quiet. I tiptoed past the living room, heart hammering, and into Melissa's office. The locked drawer was slightly ajar. She must have been careless. I pulled it open. Inside, my heart dropped. Dozens of envelopes. Some with university seals, some already torn open. My name was on every single one. I pulled out one after another, scanning the contents. Acceptances, scholarship offers, letters of congratulations. She'd stolen them all. And at the bottom, ashes in a small tray. The remnants of the fake scholarship letter Kayla and I had planted. Proof. Absolute proof. For a moment, I imagined Dad's face if I showed him all of this. The guilt, the shock, the realization of how wrong he'd been. But another part of me whispered, "Don't show him yet." Not until it matters most. Melissa's downfall couldn't just be private. It had to be public. She needed to be exposed in a way that left no room for excuses. The next day, Chloe cornered me in the hallway at school. "You look smug," she said, narrowing her eyes. I smirked. "Maybe I know something you don't." Her face darkened. "If you're plotting something, Mom will crush you." I leaned in, lowering my voice. "Funny, didn't she already try?" For the first time, Chloe faltered. Her confidence cracked, just slightly. And that tiny crack fueled me. I spent nights drafting a new plan. Graduation was only weeks away. Melissa wanted to control my future? Fine. I'd let her think she still had the upper hand. Meanwhile, I would line up every piece of evidence. Copies of stolen letters, the fake one she destroyed, even testimonies from teachers who'd backed my applications. Kayla helped me scan everything into a secure drive. "She can't erase digital files," she said with a grin. Every time I uploaded another document, another piece of proof, I felt lighter, stronger. The trap was set. Melissa believed she had locked me in her cage. She believed the fire had broken me. But while she celebrated her victory, I was building a bonfire of my own. And when the right moment came, I'd light the match and watch her world burn instead. Melissa had no idea the ground beneath her feet was shifting. She still strutted around the house like a queen, smug and untouchable. But I'd learned something she hadn't. Queens can fall. And it starts with the smallest cracks. It began with little things. One evening, Melissa handed me a long list of chores just as I sat down with my textbooks. Normally, I would have bitten my tongue, pushed my homework aside, and obeyed. But not this time. "I can't," I said evenly, keeping my voice calm. "I have an AP exam tomorrow. My studies come first." Melissa's eyes snapped up, shocked at my defiance. "You'll do them now," she said coldly. I met her glare. No, not this time. For a heartbeat, the air crackled between us. Then Chloe burst out laughing from the couch. Wow, she grew a spine. Melissa's face tightened, but she said nothing. And that silence? It was my first win. At school, Kayla joined my quiet rebellion. When Chloe started her usual cafeteria mockery, Kayla raised her voice just enough for the nearby table to hear. Funny, isn't it? How people laugh at Hannah for being studious. Meanwhile, Vanderbilt doesn't hand out scholarships to just anyone. Chloe's smug expression faltered, confusion flickering across her face. I leaned in, smiling sweetly. Oh, didn't your mom tell you? Maybe she's keeping secrets from you too. For once, it was Chloe storming out of the cafeteria, her friends trailing behind. I carefully began pulling a few of the stolen letters out of Melissa's office drawer. Not enough for her to notice, but just enough to show my teachers and Kayla. Mrs. Reynolds, my English teacher, gasped when I laid them on her desk. Hannah, these are incredible. Why haven't you celebrated? My voice cracked. Because someone tried to make sure I couldn't. She gave me a long, sharp look. Don't you worry. When the time comes, I'll vouch for you. Her words felt like armor. The more I acted confident, the more Melissa bristled. She hated it when I hummed softly while studying, or when I smiled at my phone after Kayla texted me encouragement. One night, she snapped. Why are you so smug lately? I looked her straight in the eye and said, because I know things you don't. Her face flushed red. She stormed off, muttering under her breath. For the first time, I felt the tables turning. One Saturday morning, Chloe barged into my room, trying to snoop as usual. Where are you hiding your college rejections? She mocked. I smirked, pulling open my desk drawer just enough for her to see the edge of an official envelope, one I'd already copied and saved. Her eyes widened. Is that? I snapped the drawer shut. Wouldn't you like to know? She ran to Melissa, whining, but when Melissa confronted me, I just shrugged. It's only my old tax forms. Chloe must have imagined things. Melissa's eyes narrowed. She didn't believe me, but she couldn't prove otherwise. That was another win. Meanwhile, Dad began to notice the tension. One night at dinner, he frowned as Melissa sniped at me for ignoring chores. "Melissa," he said slowly, "Hannah's been working hard. Maybe give her a little space?" Her fork froze midair. "Since when do you take her side?" He sighed, rubbing his temples. "I'm just saying, she's not a child anymore." Melissa's eyes shot daggers at me across the table, but inside, my heart soared. Dad was starting to see slivers of truth. "You're getting to her," Kayla said one afternoon as we studied at the library. "She's unraveling," I admitted. "But it's not enough, not yet. She needs to fall in a way she can't recover from." Kayla leaned closer, whispering fiercely. "Then we make her expose herself. Publicly." The idea made my pulse race. Public exposure. Graduation was coming soon. The stage, the crowd, the dean, all the witnesses Melissa couldn't silence. For the first time, I saw the shape of my victory that night. As I slid another stolen envelope into my backpack, I whispered to myself, "This is only the beginning." Melissa still believed she had the power. But soon, she would stand in front of a crowd with nowhere to hide, and the truth would burn brighter than any fire she lit. Graduation day. The moment Melissa never wanted me to reach. The auditorium buzzed with families, cameras flashing, bouquets crinkling in proud hands. Students in navy gowns clustered near the stage, nerves jangling with excitement. But my nerves weren't about walking across the stage. They were about what was about to happen, because tonight, Melissa's lies would end. As names were called, applause echoed in waves. My heart hammered as I heard mine. Hannah Parker, Valedictorian, class of 20XX. The sound of my name thundered through the auditorium. For a moment, time froze. I walked forward, head high, as whispers rippled through the crowd. Valedictorian, not invisible, not a servant. Not nothing. I shook the dean's hand, accepted my diploma, and turned to face the sea of faces. And there she was, Melissa, sitting stiff in the audience, her lips parted in shock, eyes wide with disbelief. Chloe sat beside her, pale, chewing her nails. Dad looked stunned, blinking as though he was seeing me for the first time. When it was time for the valedictorian address, I stepped to the podium, paper trembling in my hand, not from fear, but from the weight of the moment. "Good evening," I began, voice clear, carrying across the silent room. "We've spent 4 years working hard to reach this day. Each of us has faced challenges. For some, it was academics. For others, it was personal." I paused, eyes scanning the crowd. Melissa shifted uncomfortably. "For me," I continued, voice tightening with emotion, "it was learning that sometimes the people closest to you don't want you to succeed, that they will try to keep you small, quiet, invisible." A ripple of murmurs ran through the audience. But invisibility can be a gift, because when no one's watching, you can build. You can prepare, and when the time comes, I looked straight at Melissa. You can rise in ways no one expects. Gasps spread through the room. Then, with deliberate calm, I pulled out a folder from beneath the podium. "These," I said, lifting the papers high, "are my acceptance letters. To multiple universities. Letters someone tried to keep from me." Melissa's face drained of color. Chloe's eyes widened. Dad's mouth dropped open. The dean stepped closer, frowning in confusion. "Tried to keep from you?" "Yes," I said firmly, my voice steady as steel. "Someone in my own home destroyed one, intercepted others, and tried to convince me and everyone else that I wasn't capable of being here today." The audience gasped louder. Parents craned their necks. Students whispered furiously. Melissa half rose from her seat, whispering harshly to Dad, but all eyes were on me. I took a deep breath. "But here's the truth. You can burn paper, but you can't burn hard work. You can't burn persistence, and you can't burn a future that's already been earned." Applause erupted, thunderous, rolling, unstoppable. Teachers stood clapping. My classmates cheered. Melissa's face twisted in rage, but she was trapped. She couldn't shout me down here. Not in front of hundreds of witnesses. Out of the corner of my eye, I saw Dad staring at Melissa, His face was pale, horrified. For the first time, he saw what I had been living through. Melissa reached for his arm, but he pulled it away. That small movement felt bigger than the standing ovation. Chloe, cheeks flaming, muttered something to her mother, but Melissa's composure cracked. She sat rigid, fists clenched, her mask finally shattered in public. She looked like the queen who just realized her crown was made of glass. I finished my speech to roaring applause. My classmates hugged me, the dean congratulated me, and teachers wiped tears from their eyes. As I stepped down from the stage, my legs felt lighter than they had in years. I wasn't invisible anymore. But as I looked toward my family's row, I saw Melissa's eyes locked on me, cold, sharp, calculating this wasn't over. That night, as the crowd spilled out of the auditorium, as families took pictures and tossed graduation caps into the air, I caught Melissa's gaze one last time. She leaned close to me as we passed in the lobby, her voice low, trembling with fury. "This isn't finished. Hannah," I smiled, holding her gaze steady. "You're right," I whispered. "It's only beginning." The roar of applause from graduation still echoed in my ears long after the auditorium emptied. But applause fades. What doesn't fade are the cracks it leaves behind, the silence after the storm, the reckoning that follows exposure. The car ride home was unbearable. Dad's knuckles were white on the steering wheel. Melissa sat stiff in the passenger seat, her lips pressed so tightly they were colorless. Chloe scrolled furiously on her phone, her face burning red. When we pulled into the driveway, Dad cut the engine and finally spoke. "Melissa." His voice was low but trembling. "Is it true? Did you destroy Hannah's letters?" Melissa turned slowly, her face a mask. She twisted it. She always twists things. "You know how dramatic she is." "Stop." Dad's voice cracked like a whip. "Don't lie to me. Not anymore." For once, Melissa didn't have a quick comeback. The silence between them was heavier than any scream. That night, I heard Melissa pacing the kitchen, muttering under her breath. Every so often, her voice would spike, sharp and venomous. "Humiliated me. In front of everyone. She thinks she's clever." I stayed in my room, listening, heart pounding. Chloe stomped upstairs an hour later, slamming her door so hard a picture frame rattled. The house wasn't a home anymore. It was a battlefield. And the Queen's army was crumbling. The following week, word spread like wildfire. Students replayed videos of my speech, whispering about the girl whose stepmother tried to sabotage her future. Teachers patted my shoulder, eyes soft with sympathy. Even kids who'd laughed at me before now looked at me with a strange mix of respect and unease. I wasn't invisible anymore. And Melissa hated it. Chloe avoided me at home. When she did speak, it was with venom. "You embarrassed us," she snapped one evening, tossing her hair. "Do you know how humiliating it is to be the sister of the girl who aired our family drama to the entire town?" I met her glare. "Do you know how humiliating it is to be erased from your own family?" Her face flinched, but she turned away. Dad started acting differently, too. He came into my room one night, leaning on the doorframe like he wasn't sure he was allowed. "Hannah," he said softly, "why didn't you tell me sooner?" "Really tell me?" I stared at him, bitterness rising. "I did, Dad. You just didn't believe me." He lowered his head, shame etched into his face. "I should have protected you." The words landed like a bandage on a wound too deep to heal overnight. But it was something. Melissa tried to claw back control. She threw herself into hosting dinner parties, trying to smile her way through gossip. But I heard the whispers. That's the woman who burned her stepdaughter's acceptance letter. She sabotaged her own family. The story had spread beyond school, beyond the auditorium. Melissa's carefully curated image was in ashes, just like my letter had been, and she couldn't stand it. One afternoon, I sat down with Mrs. Reynolds, who had become more than just a teacher. She looked at me with warm eyes. "You're stronger than you know, Hannah," she said. "But strength isn't just surviving. It's deciding what comes next. What if what comes next is messy?" I asked, voice trembling. She smiled gently. Then it's yours. Messy or not, it's yours. Those words sank deep. For the first time, I realized my life wasn't just about proving Melissa wrong. It was about proving myself right. The breaking point came a week later at dinner. Melissa set down a casserole dish with a thud. I will not be treated like the villain in my own home, she snapped, glaring at Dad. You've let Hannah poison everyone against me. Dad leaned back, exhausted. You did this to yourself, Melissa, she whipped toward me. And you? Her voice shook with fury. You'll regret humiliating me. I met her glare with steady eyes. No, you'll regret underestimating me. The silence that followed was thick, charged. That night, lying in bed, I realized something. The battle was almost over. Melissa had lost her reputation, her grip on Dad, and her mask. But the war wasn't truly won until I let go of the chains she'd wrapped around me. And tomorrow, I plan to do just that. The morning after Melissa's final outburst, the house felt different. Not quieter, tense, brittle, like glass stretched too thin. But inside me, I felt steady for the first time in years, because I knew something Melissa didn't. She couldn't touch me anymore. Dad asked me to join him in the living room. Melissa wasn't there. She'd stormed off earlier after another fight. He sat forward on the couch, elbows on his knees, looking more tired than I'd ever seen him. Hannah, he began, voice rough, I failed you. I let her. I let all of this happen, and I don't expect you to forgive me right away. I swallowed hard, arms crossed tightly. You chose not to see, Dad. That hurt worse than her cruelty. His eyes glistened. I know, and I don't want to lose you. If you'll give me a chance, I want to do better. I studied him, my heart torn between anger and longing. Finally, I said softly, doing better doesn't start with me. It starts with you standing up to her. For once, he didn't flinch. He nodded. It didn't take long. A week later, Melissa packed her things. Whether she left because Dad confronted her, or because the gossip strangled her reputation, I didn't know. Maybe both. All I knew was that the door slammed behind her, and the house breathed differently, empty, but free. Chloe went with her, of course, glaring at me one last time before dragging her suitcase to the car. Enjoy it while it lasts, she spat. I didn't answer. Some battles don't need words. With Melissa gone, Dad tried to rebuild. He cooked clumsy dinners, asked me about school, and even bought me a Vanderbilt sweatshirt. But here's the truth. I wasn't doing this for him anymore. Not for Melissa. Not even for vengeance. I was doing it for me. A week before college started, Vanderbilt hosted a dinner for scholarship recipients. The dean shook my hand again, this time calling me by name in a room full of professors and families. You've proven resilience, Hannah, he said warmly. That's rarer than intelligence. As the room applauded, I glanced around. Melissa wasn't there to sneer. Chloe wasn't there to mock. Dad wasn't there to dismiss. It was just me. Standing tall. One evening before moving into the dorms, I visited my mother's grave. I knelt, placing fresh lilies down, my throat tight. Mom, I whispered, voice trembling. I wish you'd been here. Maybe then Melissa wouldn't have had the chance to make me feel so small. But I made it. I'm leaving, and I'll never let anyone burn my future again. The breeze rustled through the trees as if answering me. For the first time in years, I felt light. Here's what I've learned. People will try to shrink you. They'll tell you you're invisible, worthless, powerless. They'll burn your dreams to ashes if it means keeping control. But fire doesn't just destroy. It also forges. Melissa thought she burned my future, but all she did was harden me into someone who couldn't be erased. So if this story touched you, please like and subscribe. It helps more than you know. Now I want to ask you, if someone tried to burn your dreams to the ground, would you rebuild quietly or rise louder than ever? Tell me in the comments. I'd love to hear your thoughts.